Hi, well, I hope you've enjoyed SECtember.ai Global today. It's been a day filled with great content and insights on the state of AI safety and security and how it relates to the cloud and what's coming next. So, my name is Jim Reavis, and I am the CEO of Cloud Security Alliance. And what I wanted to do was give you a little bit of insight on where our AI safety initiative is right now, the things we're working on, and to get you ready and excited for our next event that's coming up in just a few weeks. So the AI safety initiative is something that we started last year, and we have been working very hard gathering together the community. We have cloud providers, frontier model organizations, cybersecurity agencies from around the world, enterprises, experts from so many different walks of life, everywhere you could think of. And we really appreciate all of their efforts. So recently, we've had four new research deliverables. Two of them focused on large language models directly, the threats taxonomy on the things we need to be concerned about, and hardening how we can really be able to do the authorization and access control. Because the interesting thing is we have all of these security controls on our legacy data and traditional databases. And when we go through this process of ingesting it into LLMs, we can lose a lot of that. And so that's what I think is an aspect of what we are trying to develop and rebuild. So important areas, a risk management framework and something called offensive security. I'm going to go into just a little bit of those. So we've got our free online course that thousands of people have been through and getting a lot of feedback, a lot of interest in, hey, let's take that to the next level and let's work on some new things. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the roadmap for STAR for AI, what that is, and why we consider it to be perhaps the most important thing we got to work on here in the next year. So of the research we've released so far, tracking it by downloads, and then I've been doing some surveys on the most critical research artifact for what we need today for the problems that we have ahead of us. The AI organizational responsibilities comes back and talking about core security responsibilities, what needs to be done. So we try to put together a framework to help you understand the whole life cycle of AI coming into an organization, how we need to secure it. A lot of focus on data security, data privacy, a lot of people have said, and this also has been borne out by the surveys that I've done. Data governance and compliance are probably the two big issues we got to be concerned about. I talk more specifically about model security, vulnerability management, and then a lot of this is structured and delivered to talk about what are the roles that an organization needs, what are the processes they need, how does a RACI model look at this, and who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and involved in any different aspect of the AI security journey that any organization may have. So this is a good fundamental research to help you sort of map out from a big picture, how do we get the whole organization around this? How do we create the right policies? How do we get the right plans in place? So I encourage you to take a look at this. So one of the newer ones that I released, that I announced, was the AI model risk management framework. And it's a nice sort of research complementary to other things you may have seen about risk management that puts this together in, I think, a real sort of actionable modular way of thinking about things. So it has four pillars associated with it: model cards, which give you all the information you need about the different large language models to make the right decisions around them. Data sheets to basically understand and document training data by the different types of data you have. You may have a lot of different data sheets around that. Risk cards, understand those different risks, and then the scenario planning to help you sort of bring all these things together. So it's an interesting, I think, very actionable framework, and encourage you to take a look at this. And again, that's where we hear a lot of the demands. Whether this does it all or we need to look at other tools, we're hearing a lot of demands for, hey, we just need to make sure we're doing very documentable, supportable, defendable risk management as we deal with AI coming into our organizations. So another one of the newer ones I mentioned is AI for offensive security. And this is something where when we talk about AI for offensive security, we're talking about how we do vulnerability assessment, vulnerability management, penetration testing, and maybe red teaming, those different sort of dimensions of using AI to find the different issues. So this gives you, it's one of the screenshots I liked out of the document itself that helps you understand for those different sort of phases in how you look for vulnerabilities, how AI can provide some augmentation and in some cases, maybe even some automation in those areas. So this really help you out. We know the malicious actors are looking at how they can be doing a lot of code scanning and repos out there and find 0 days faster. So it's important that we are keeping one step ahead of them. And I think this will be a helpful document for you to dig into and understand that and help you, again, be more proactive. This isn't just about securing AI. Really, we've got to use AI to help transform cybersecurity itself. We got to take this very holistic approach. So another one I wanted to, that I briefly mentioned, I want to talk about was securing LLMs via authorization. So, things are changing really quickly, but we've tried to keep up with that and be able to talk about here's the different sorts of methods for how you get your information, vector databases, RAG, other places that you're using to augment LLMs or ingesting information into LLMs. So again, another sort of, we've got a few different block diagrams showing how all these different components work, how their interrelation is, to help you identify the different areas that we got to be thinking about. Hey, where do we need to put it in security? Where do we need to do the correct authorization, authentication, encryption, all those things? And we don't get it all covered here. We've got a lot more we're going to work on. So another research document that we are going to be doing in this space this year is doing the brainstorming on the guidance for AI autonomous agents, which are an important part of how we get value out of LLMs, is to have it automated working on our behalf, but also a lot of issues and questions we might have about how we lock those things down. So hope you look at that and get ready and maybe even give your input in the working group on how we can do more for some of these new areas such as autonomous agents. So the next thing I want to do is just spend a little bit of time with you talking about STAR for AI. And so this is a thing. This is something we're going to try and do. And I'm going to explain what it is, why we think it's so important to the industry, what the different steps are going to be in this, and ask you to get involved and be helpful in what we're trying to do. So STAR for AI is organizational certification program for adherence to AI safety and security best practices. So we're designing this using a sort of shared responsibility model on a holistic basis for the AI companies, cloud providers, SaaS providers on top of the cloud, and even the enterprise users of AI. And we're focusing this on generative AI delivered through the cloud. That's the most common way you're going to get access to generative AI is cloud-based. But when you think about like the different types of organizations, we think it's really important to be broad-based there, because an enterprise can be making decisions about how they use AI on their information that will require oversight by someone and somehow, and we'll let time tell exactly how our certification program is adopted and manifests itself. But that's really important. So we are building this STAR for AI on top of our existing STAR program, which is widely adopted, a pervasive program for risk and assurance in the cloud that we launched in 2011. A lot of providers in it, a lot of support by industries and a lot of different big companies, and also even national governments will use this to allow access to cloud providers to, for example, public administration types of business opportunities. So we have a lot of aspects to this, which I'll go over next. And importantly, we already have major audit and ISO certification bodies that are part of our third-party assessment network performing STAR assessments today. So if you think about this rationale, and this is all being delivered as a cloud service, then CSA's cloud controls matrix is something that can be extended to really allow us to be able to do this correctly. So I wanted to just go over this a little bit in more detail so you can see that the different pillars are cloud controls matrix, are different levels of assessments, our registry, our publicly available registry, our different training opportunities, as well as our ability to extend this and to use APIs so that you can have access to this in a lot of different ways. So we've got a lot of support for this, and we think that this is really a pretty logical way if you look at government governance issues in cloud, governance issues in cloud delivered AI, you're going to see a lot of similarities. So if I can just go through what I imagine these components are going to be, we have our AI controls framework, which is going to be that new version. We actually, a couple of weeks ago, we had a big team of experts, actually not big, it was sort of an elite team, I guess maybe I would say it, but experts covering the spectrum of the different stakeholders that actually did a really good first pass on building this framework. And so gave us a great start. So we got that framework, the certification scheme. Are we going to use ISO, SOC 2? Are we going to use something else to pair that with our controls framework? The authorized auditors, already talked about that. We sort of have that community. The registry, we think we can just extend that. And then we'll just use technology. And there's just so much great innovation in using AI in the governance space and AI-enabled governance, new products, new solutions. So I think we'll see a lot of interesting things there. So the AI controls framework that we're working on, it's using Cloud Controls Matrix, that threats taxonomy I was talking about, that's one of our research products. Other research that's out there, the different organizational responsibilities, all of them provide some inspiration. But it's very important that we want this to be very accessible and relevant around the world and with a lot of different standards that are out there. So the final product, you can expect it to be mapped to and or structured in harmony with the EU AI Act, ISO 42001, the NIST Risk Management Framework for AI, different things like that. And we're looking at other things, new AI Act out of California, other places. So we're going to make sure that it aligns with it so we don't miss anything that's important to those standards. So kind of do this once and it can apply to a lot of different environments that are out there. So the roadmap here is we're creating that framework, which we've already got to start on, as I mentioned. And so you should be able to see a really strong peer review draft in Q4 of this year. Something called the AI Safety Pledge is also something in advance of having the full program. We are going to ask organizations in the industry to pledge their support of this STAR for AI program by saying these are these high-level principles that we're going to do in support of transparency, safety, ethical behavior. So that's going to be something that's pretty, I think, accessible for organizations to do. We'll have our first major press release in later this year where we'll explain all of this. Then we'll get the full framework, get the piloting going, get the auditors on board, and then looking towards the end of 2025, this should be completely done. But you can see you'll be able to get involved and get prepared right away as you'll see the deliverables come out on sort of this rolling basis. So I hope that gives you some good insight on what we have going on, where things are moving towards. And I'd really like to thank you for your participation today. And now get ready. The big one here in a few weeks, 3 days. It's just amazing. The hyperscalers, the the government, several governments are involved, large language model organizations, enterprises, really strong cybersecurity experts here, privacy people. It's going to be a terrific event. So you can find it at the SECtember.ai site. So go out there and register. Thank you and have a great day.